What's the most toxic substance you've come in contact with? I don't know what it was, but during a safety briefing for touring a chemical plant I was visiting, the guide said, "Follow us. If we stop, you stop. If we walk, you walk. If we run, keep up." Apparently there were chemicals capable of becoming airborne if there was a breach, and in large enough amounts could kill you from coming into contact with your skin. Co-worker visited a grain silo once. They said if you see the workers running away, don't ask, just follow. Grain dust is highly explosive. Hydrazine. For our FOUS project at college, we hashed out the idea and decided to try and get a professor to sponsor it, especially the lab time. We asked around, and only one professor would agree to it, one known for being very serious about safety. 2. This involving not only making but handling hydrazine unsupervised. We do it on our own. He'd just authorize lab time. He came up with a set of conditions. We have to get the clearances and permissions. We have to watch the security briefing. We have to take a test on the security briefing and ace it. And we each have to, in private, put down a list of who amongst ourselves. He'd only approve the people who made it across everyone else's list. It's an ingenious idea. Actually, we started the idea in 9 of us. 2 didn't make it past the test, and my list only had 6 people in it. The last guy, as much as I liked him, I could not trust him to be serious with it and not possibly kill me. In the end, only 4 of us got permission to do it. That list idea is frickin' brilliant. To know you're part of a team that has full collective trust is exactly what you need for something like that. As a vet intern, I frequently handle euthysil in small doses for companion animals or very large doses for horses. I'm warned to keep gloves tight and wash my hands after to prevent residue getting on me or my own animals. IDK if it's overkill, but since it's the drug we use solely to end lives, you kinda don't want to be complacent around 100 ccs of it when 12 will likely kill someone my size. It works similar to anesthesia, I believe. Your cells use NARK gates to transmit nerve signals and preform actions. It sits at a certain level and a signal depolarizes it to threshold, causing those gates to do their thing. If I recall correctly, both euthysil and anesthesia push your cells farther down so usual signals cannot reach threshold and will not pass on signals the brain or limbs send. Or in the case of euthanasia, it prevents the heart from beating on its own as well as knock them out. Just a few ml of this bright pink fluid will mess you up, and it ain't Pepto-Bismol. Thanks for taking the time to actually explain what the chemical does, unlike a bunch of people in this thread. I'm on a spill team at my work at a contract lab, so any dangerous chemical spill I have to respond to with other team members. I think the worst I responded to was either sodium arsenite or potassium cyanide. We had to clear out the whole lab and suit up to clean it. I'm originally from Belarus, and while I didn't come into direct contact, Chernobyl radiation was gently breezing on my family daily. Same. I wonder if my few genetic issues are related. I once accidentally inhaled chlorine dust while filling up a pool's chlorine hopper. I was coughing and wrenching so hard I thought I was going to spew blood. I didn't, thankfully. When I was 16, I had a manager tell me to clean the chlorine hopper with muriatic acid. I did it, against my better judgment. When I worked as a gas station attendant, the other workers let a puddle of brown urine, indicating possible hepatitis, and vomit about a centimeter deep sit in the corner of the women's restroom for 2 weeks. By the time I got there, it had mixed into a fecal-like sludge that was actively rotting. I'll let you guess what else I found in that puddle. Hint, it was sharp. Jesus Christ, that's it. It's over. You've won retail hack. Environmental toxicologist here. It's a pretty long list. By most toxic, I'm guessing you mean the one with the lowest LD50. That's botulinum toxin. Good old botulinum toxin. For when you need something that can lean up against hydrogen sulfide and whisper, P. I am a pharmaceutical analytical chemist, so I often work with pure drug substances. These include cancer, AIDS, hepatitis drugs that are highly potent and only require doses in the microgram range. Oh, also fentanyl. Hello there, fellow preclinical pharmaceutical chemist. I'm out of that world now, but definitely touched some fun chemicals. Environmental engineer here. with a focus on landfills. So, almost everything you can imagine that has ever been thrown out and left to decompose. We use potassium cyanide regularly where I work. I've run chlorinations involving pure chlorine. We have a special hood for phosphogenations, but that's super dangerous and you need special credentials to touch anything in there. At my work we run phosgene chemistry occasionally, just finished up a project with it recently. There's also methyl isocyanate, ethyl isocyanate, sodium cyanide, and hydrogen cyanide. You'll be surprised at the kind of people they let work here, too. Lots to choose from since I'm a synthetic chemist. Hydrofluoric acid or various cyanide salts are probably the most immediately lethal. Alkyl lithium reagents aren't exactly toxic, but they are spontaneously flammable in air, so that will get you if you're not careful. Sulfuric, nitric, and concentrated hydrochloric acids will all give you nasty burns, especially if you put them together with high concentration hydrogen peroxide to clean glassware. A lot of alkylating reagents like chloromethyl methoxide won't get you immediately, but they are a good way to increase your risk of cancer. At Papa John's they don't use flour or cornmeal, they use what they call dustinator. I'm pretty sure it's just a flour cornmeal mix. I was a GM for 15 years and I keep waiting for the day they discover it causes lung cancer, and I have about 5 inches of it in the bottom of my lungs. It probably does in California. Carfentanil. Carfentanil is about 5,000 times stronger than pure H. The lethal dose of carfentanil is actually unknown because it is so insanely small. To put it this way, the lethal dose of fentanyl is 2 mg, and carfentanil is about 100x more potent than fentanyl. I literally had a co-worker standing ready with a naloxone kit prepared to inject me in case I collapsed of an overdose if any of it came in contact with my skin. This stuff is only useful if you plan on sedating a blue whale. Chlorine. As a lifeguard we had to pour liquid chlorine in the pool filtration machine that would add the chlorine slowly into the water. My co-worker thought it would be funny and poured any extra bottle on me when I was pouring another bottle in the machine. Had to get hosed off for an hour and had several severe burns for 2 weeks. I looked like had been doused in poison ivy. I hope he got fired for doing that. Concentrated HF aka hydrofluoric acid. This crap sucks. It will kill you. It will kill you painfully. It's not actually toxic per se, but it's still awful. If you compare it with other acids you would think that it would be the strongest acid based on periodic trends, but nope. It's so strong that it's actually weak. The bond between the fluorine atom and hydrogen atom is so strong that the HF doesn't want to dissociate in water, therefore it's considered weak. Basically fluorine just F's crap up. What happens is this. If you pour HF on yourself, you may not at first notice it. You see, it doesn't really burn as badly as other concentrated acids, sulfuric, hydrochloric, etc. So you rinse it off and whatnot, but that's not good enough. See, HF gets inside you, and it freaking attacks your bones. Actually it attacks all the calcium in your body, but you get the point. The fluorine wants so badly to find something to give it an electron that it'll seek out anything with an extra electron, hence calcium, and it will tear apart anything in its path to do so. And the worst part? There is nothing you can do about it. The treatment for an HF burn: smother it with a calcium containing cream. That's right. The treatment is literally just give it what it wants until it burns itself out. And you want to know what's worse? If you happen to get some on under your fingernail, yep, you gotta rip the nail off before you apply the calcium gluconate cream or else it won't work. If you spill enough of the stuff on you, or in an inaccessible place, like your midsection crotch, yeah, you're dead. Sorry, a guy at my old job literally died from an accident like that. He spilled HF in the hood or the front of the hood, and since he was standing pushed up against the cabinets under the hood, the momentum of the flowing liquid made it flow right out under the air intake at the front of the hood and onto his midsection. And yeah, he died. Not at all fun stuff. My younger brother was autistic and went through a phase where he was obsessed with all things nuclear. When he was around age 7-9 all he wanted was some uranium ore and he wouldn't leave my mom alone about it. At some point my brother located some. I'm not sure if it was through a dealer at a rock show or online or what, but my idiot mom bought it for him and he kept it in his room. I was terrified of being in the same house as the ore, and because my brother was also an butthole, He thought it was really funny to put the ore on me when I was sleeping because I seemed to be afraid of it. At some point he talked my mom into buying him a Geiger counter so he could test his ore, and when he finally tested it with the counter, it maxed out, showing the ore put out more radiation than it could measure. It was at that point he also became afraid of it, and so he decided to bury it somewhere. I worry all the time I'm going to get some kind of cancer. Child pornography. As a mod here I had the displeasure of dealing with someone that posted something like, "Isn't this so hot?" and in the text box posted a link to CP. I sent it up to the admins to deal with it, but it really ruined my week and it's still something I very much wish I hadn't seen. But it does make me feel better that by removing it I was able to save other people from it. Oh god. Some people are just horrible. Sorry you had to see that. My dad did chemical work for a company years and years ago, and one day he brought home hydrofluoric acid from work to frick with the ants under our shed. I touched the acid's bottle and spilled it on the ground my foot. I panicked and used a kitchen towel washcloth to pick it up, and for me that was that, until my foot started hurting a little bit. Only a small drop actually made it on my foot and it ate away at a few cm of foot flesh. The towel looked like a necromorph spit on it. To conclude, those ants never came back, and I never touched bottles that said danger every again. I was 12 years old, and I'm as a rock. Tetramethylammonium hydroxide, conc, nitric acid, shoots nastier than sulfuric. HF, moving a bottle, so not really using it. Trifluoroacetic acid seemed nasty too. Probably HCN. I caught a whiff of bitter almonds and ran. I was a kid, and I thought, I wonder what would happen if I added concentrated sulfuric acid to this potassium thiocyanate. It fizzed. Then there was the time with the chlorine gas, but that is another story. I got sodium hydroxide aka lye in my mouth. My dad owns an industrial cleaning company and I used to go along with him as a kid. He was in full protection gear. Told me not to touch anything, just to hang around outside while he finished up. At the time my phone had a charm on it that I like to chew, and so, I can't remember why, but I asked my dad to hold my phone while I did something. Then I got it back and put the charm straight back in my mouth. There must have been some residue on his gloves because all of a sudden my mouth started feeling really weird. And then it got worse and worse until I told him my mouth was tingling and we put 2 and 2 together. Not sure we told my mum about that one. Dang, that's a hard one. I'll give you a 2-5. Sulfuric acid, hydrochloric acid, uranium, just a little bit, GHB, and lastly the streets of the Tenderloin in San Francisco. Directly, sulfuric acid. Used some to clean extraction hardware, and it sputtered on some water in a glass filter. Itty bitty burns through my lab coat and on my arms. Slightly painful. Handled without incident. Boron trifluoride methanol solution. Used for deriving fatty acid methyl esters from oils. Usually for analytical chemistry. BF3 is a strong acid that will eat you and then react with water to make other strong acids that will eat you some more. Eli 5 version. Was in same room as and it freaked me the frick out. Dimethyl mercury. This one time I was doing a photography project and decided to use a beer bottle as a prop and used an old one I had sitting in my room. College at the time. Little did I know that there was a bit of liquid sitting in there for a few months, and when I pretended to take a sip a huge sludge of mold slid past my teeth into my mouth. I still gag if I think about it for long enough. I threw a piece of PVC pipe into a small fire when I was a kid. A few seconds later I couldn't breathe or see and blindly ran away into the woods. Must create some caustic vapors when burned. Probably not as toxic as most, and not sure if this counts, but I once bought weed from a janitor that I later found out was laced with coke. Hydrofluoric acid. I was working in a well-known CPU manufacturing plant on an installation job. Due to a mistake on the part of a plumbing company, the wrong fittings were used on a pipe carrying hydrofluoric acid and the pipe was eaten through. I was just after starting work and it was pouring out of the ceiling and I came within 1 meter of getting completely drowned by the stuff. The only reason I spotted it was a glint on the puddle. I was completely blessed that day. In 7th grade we were observing cheek cells under a microscope. We had the options of using 2 types of dye, a blue non-toxic one, or a violet one that could cause cancer and a bunch of other health issues. So me and my partner, both being dumb, decide to use the cancerous one. I ended up getting some on my skin. However, I haven't developed cancer yet. When I was a kid, 10-12 years old, I had a big brother from the Big Brothers Sisters organization. He was a pharmacology student at the time. He'd give me various toys to play with like pure liquid mercury, hydrofluoric acid, sulfuric acid, and hydrofluoric acid. The only thing he'd tell me is don't mix these. Of course as a kid I'm thinking hey this is so freaking cool. As an adult, I'm thinking are you freaking insane giving a kid things to play with that could severely maim or kill him. By God's good grace I didn't hurt myself with them but Jesus Christ. Years later I worked for AMD in the clean room doing wet etch. Basically my job was to dip baskets of silicon wafers into large vats of hydrofluoric acid. Go figure. A mate of mine was first on scene to the Salisbury Novichok attacks in the UK. Said that was some pretty bad stuff and he uses anthrax in his everyday lab work. My first job as a teenager was on a par 3 golf course. One day I was spraying weeds with one of those big tanks of Roundup on my back. I had forgotten to secure the lid and when I bent over to pick up a stray tee, the whole load came rushing out over my head and shoulders. Some even got in my mouth and nose. Thank Christ there were showers in the clubhouse but I'm sure I knocked a few of my golden years off with that bonehead mistake. Radioactive fallout. My town was affected after Chernobyl, and according to my mum, I don't remember it, the rain after that went into the grass and water, and the livestock, fell in huge drops like marbles in the weeks following. Ooh, my time to shine. Just this year, freshman, in my high school science class one of my classmates dropped a sealed vial of chlorine. It cracked but didn't break. Our 70-year-old teacher dropped a few F-bombs and told us all to get fo while he put it in a Tupperware container and carried it outside. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.